I get to the last channel, it was Discovery, and there was nothing on. It was just these bars. So I called the cable company and said, look, I love the 29 channels I'm getting, but I'm paying for 30. Why is there nothing on channel 30? I want to fill that time, and let's split the revenues.
Let's talk about what ultimately got you so successful to be asked to be on Shark Tank, which is, I think you've been described as kind of the godfather of the infomercial, the as seen on TV concept.
Yeah.
And all the products that people might remember from the 80s and 90s, the Tony Little exerciser,
Yeah,
the Ginsu
sure.
knives, the Foreman grill, like the stuff you see on TV.
Yeah.
How did you, I would say, invent that as a platform for marketing? And
so I'll just start, I mentioned when I was 15, I started a driveway sealing business in Cincinnati, because if you had an asphalt driveway and you had cracks and the water got in there and then froze, it would triple the size of the crack. So I'm knocking on doors. Hey, let me put some filler in there and then I'll beautify your driveway. I was doing 10 a week. I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And the reason I grew up in a neighborhood, we had the most least expensive home in a nice neighborhood, and the guys at the top of the hill were living in these big mansions, and the chairman of Kroger's son we went to school together, but when he turned 16, he got a beautiful sports car as a birthday gift. Me, I had to earn it, so that's why I was out hustling. But as a entrepreneur in the early days, I started a driveway sealing business. Then I started in college. I had to pay my own way, so I started something that had to go year-round, heating and air conditioning. So I was selling furnaces and air conditioning systems.
I didn't realize this. We started kind of from the same place, right? We were doing junk removal and moving. You were doing driveways and heating and air.
Driveways and heating and air. And so what I did, I bought all the new homeowner lists from the courthouse, and we called them. When I was in school, in college, I had telemarketers calling, hey, congratulations on the purchase of your house. We have a free gift. We're going to teach you how to use the furnace with that thermostat, and we're going to clean your furnace for free. When can we be out? And we'd send guys out all day long, and then, this lady wants air conditioning. They need a new furnace. They want a humidifier. Yeah. I would then follow up and do the sales at night. But bottom line is, those were income-producing entrepreneurship opportunities. And then I'm sitting there watching cable television, and it was 1980, early 80s, and all of a sudden, 30 channels. You had CNN and HBO and MTV, and I get to the last channel. It was Discovery, and there was nothing on. It was just these bars. So I called the cable company. I said, look, I love the 29 channels I'm getting, but I'm paying for 30. Why is there nothing on channel 30? And they said, Discovery, it's a new channel. It's only an 18-hour-a-day channel. They don't have a budget for 24 hours. So I said, so the 6 hours is nothing? And they said, yeah. I said, can I come down and talk to you guys? And they said, sure. So I did. And I said, I want to fill that time, and let's split the revenues. And so that's what we started doing. Yeah. I started putting products on in the early 80s, and we had knife sets, the Ginsu, and then I ran into Tony Little, the fitness guy, and then Billy Mays, and Billy had a product called OxiClean. And we said, hey, Billy, let's do an infomercial, And Billy said, what's an infomercial, right? So, because in the early days, what we were doing was filling the downtime of the television and the cable networks.
You make it sound so simple, but like, how did you figure all that out? Because it was a playbook that didn't exist. Like in my business, right? Like, okay, moving a junk removal, I can follow a path of what others did and make it better. Franchising, our franchisees follow our systems. Like, you basically had to pioneer this whole new world.
So I watched Arnold Morris at the Philadelphia Home Show do a demonstration of the Ginsu knife, and he was turnkey. It was like a 15-minute pitch, and when he was done, not only did I buy, but so did about 60% of the people bought the Ginsu knife set at the home show. I watched him do it a second time. It was the exact same words. Yeah. A third time, the exact same words. I said, this guy's been doing this a long time. When I got talking to him, I said, Arnold, that is the greatest sales pitch I've ever seen. He says, kid, what do you want? I'm busy. You're bothering me. I said, no. I said, how long have you been doing this? He said, I've been doing this 15 years. The same pitch? Yeah. He says, I'm at the Philadelphia Home Show today. Next week, I'm at the Iowa State Fair. 42 weeks a year, I'm on the road. I said, what if we could film it once? And instead of being in front of 10 people all day long, 40 weeks a year, we run that pitch on television into millions of people. Yeah. He said, dude, if you can do that, where do I sign? And I said, I'll give you 50 cents for every order we sell. I'll finance the show and I'll put it on Discovery Channel.
Wow.
And that was our model.
Yeah.
We just I shot the Ginsu show for under 10 grand and it did hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay.
And what makes a good pitch? What made him a good salesperson? What made the brands?
That's a great question. So I have a formula and I call it T's, please, and C's when you're pitching. Okay. So with Arnold, he had to get your attention because these trade shows, everyone's walking by, right? So
or
Arnold would
through the channels
do something crazy, like when the original Ginsu spot. We had a Japanese guy, and there's a watermelon there, and this all happens in 3 seconds. He tries to kick his foot through the watermelon and says, "Would you try to cut a watermelon with your foot?" It's like, what we're getting their attention.
Yeah.
Everyone's listening. Wait a minute, what the heck is this? Now that I got you, introducing the Ginsu. And then we slice that watermelon with the Ginsu, and then we do demo. So you tease them, get their attention, you please them by now benefits, features. Why is this knife? It'll cut through Coca-Cola cans, through mufflers, through sneakers, through this is the most indestructible knife guaranteed for life, 1995. But now, so we're doing the demos, but you need the third step is the please, the irresistible the C's, the irresistible offer. So you tease, get their attention. You please by selling benefits, features, testimonials.
What's so good about that?
What's
for
so
me?
good about it for you? Where you can use it in your kitchen, and then you seize with an irresistible offer because it's $19.95 for one. But wait, for the first 10 people, we have a second one absolutely free. Plus, but wait, there's more. 6 steak knives, a paring knife, a bread knife, 10 knives for $20. So the pitch is important.